Welcome back to ATL Day Ones. I am Tenitra, that is Jarvis, and you guys are a big reason why Locked On Sports Atlanta is over 4,000 subscribers on YouTube. So keep it coming. And listen, this is one of those great days in the history of Atlanta sports because you literally have the opportunity to give us comments about the Braves sweeping the Mets, about the Falcons doing what they did, and even when if you want to weigh in on UGA or Georgia Tech, which we'll talk about for the culture. But right now, listen, guys, I have to tell you something about your defense. They never scared. It's now been 2 weeks in a row that the defense has been asked to close a game out, and they have stepped up to the plate. The Falcons came out with the same result, which is a dub, 23-20, of course, beating the Browns. And it was Grady Jarrett who got the sack last week, Grady Jarrett this week, Richie Grant last week, Dee Alford this week. So it's just tremendous to see the Falcons close out games when Jarvis, the narrative was the polar opposite in those first two games.
Yeah, and the thing that I like to see because when you start to figure out that you like a guy, right? Because you never know when Arthur Blank decided to make the hire for Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith, there was always going to be questions, right? Because
Yes.
it's another first time hire for Arthur Smith. Terry
Mhm.
Fontenot getting his first opportunity to be a general manager in the NFL, and you start to think about all those things, and those are factors, right?
Mhm.
As they
Mhm.
get close to the season, then they start playing games. Then you get the first year out the way last year, like okay, they won close games last year. That's something that was different from Dan Quinn. Okay,
Sure.
cool. They checked the box on that one. Then you come into the
Mhm.
second year of the season. Dean Pease coming into the season. He was adamant about the defense being better and
Yeah.
not being at the bottom rungs of all defensive categories in the
Right.
NFL. And you're starting to see that. That's why I
Yeah.
get excited to when
Mhm.
guys vision for what they want this team to be, they start to come to fruition, and I love
Yes.
it because you've seen the bits and pieces as leading up to this first game, and then to the
Mhm.
second game, and then the third game, and then the fourth game. You see it really just,
Yeah.
hey, this is who we are, and this
Mhm.
is what we got going on. And I think the Falcons right now, they've established an identity, and I
Mhm.
really like it. It's talking about competitive and
Yes.
competitiveness, and being able to stop the run and being able to just get to the passer, however that
Mhm.
happens,
However,
whether it
yeah.
be rushing forward, putting pressure and all that stuff. It just
Mhm.
makes it just makes me happy to see these guys, the EPs and Arthur Smith, talk about something and then they're putting in the work and then it's starting to come to fruition on each and every Sunday.
Yes, and seeing some course corrections in game because Dee
Yes.
Alford had an opportunity and blew it a couple of plays before that, and he literally said in the post game that the players, his co teammates or whatever, they definitely said, "Hey, man, you got this." You got this. And he said, "Hey, I'm going to go out there and win this game for you guys." So to have that type of confidence, to reset that quickly, that goes to what you said. That's a mindset. That's an
Yes.
identity shift. That's what all of that means because you don't do that. You kind of, you know how sometimes players will sit in it. Whatever they did
Yeah.
wrong, you'll see them on the sidelines just sitting in
Mm-hmm.
it. But if you
Right.
caught the sidelines last night, to me, I never saw any, not one player on the Falcons sideline, especially on defense. We're talking
Right.
defense here. Not one player that was concerned. And it's interesting because I looked at a stat right as the third quarter was starting. I was just curious to see where Nick Chubb actually was. And
Mm-hmm.
he did have 60 yards and he around 60, 61 yards. He was averaging about 5.1 yards a carry. But here's the point. Talking to one of the Falcons fans, and I said, you know what? That's a quiet 60. I said, that's a really, really quiet
Mm-hmm.
60. That 60 hasn't really done anything for the Browns. So that's the other piece. It's to me, that was an example of a bend don't break.
Right.
Because yeah,
Yeah.
he got his, but it really didn't matter when it counted because there were a couple of runs late in the game where the Falcons were able to stop Nick Chubb. The Falcons were able to contain Kareem Hunt. So again, that's where you're going back to seeing them establish an identity that helps you to complete a game on defense when the offense is a little bit challenged in certain areas. Now, that said, that defense and what they did was all set up by what the run game did for the offense. When you were talking about 10 carries in a row, like 10
Come
carries in a
on.
row for the
Come on.
Falcons. Look, yes, we understand that Marcus Mariota went 7 of 19. And Jarvis and I will get into that a little bit more tomorrow. We'll deep dive into him.
Right.
But I don't want to take away Jarvis from what the run game was able to do. And let's be honest, a lot of people wondered, will we or won't we see CP, right? We
Yeah.
saw CP when we needed to, netted you about 4 yards a carry. And then, to me, Jarvis, the most exciting thing and the most impressive thing was that your O line gave it to you in the trenches when you needed it. And then, when they were springing guys, Caleb Huntley, Tyler, he of the elevation from the practice squad that Friday.
Right.
Caleb
Exactly.
Huntley,
Yeah.
Tyler Algier, and Avery Williams said, you know what? You give us a block, you give us an opening, we're going to get to that second level, that third level, and we're just going to go like a cloud of dust. You gotta love what the run game did, and that it was powered by pretty impressive performance from the O line.
Yeah, and you talk about the O line. I think that was the drive. That was the drive for me in that
Yeah,
entire game because when you
yeah,
think about, you talked about making those adjustments. Arthur Smith saying, you know what, that dude, like I said, we'll talk about him tomorrow. That dude ain't gonna win this
yeah,
this, this game. It ain't that ain't it. That ain't it right now in this moment. That ain't it. We're gonna have to do what got us here and what got them
yeah.
to that point in that game to
Mm-hmm.
be able to have an opportunity to take the lead or tie. You know
Right,
what I'm saying? And have an opportunity to win the game in the fourth quarter was the run game. And that's what he went back to. And he said, you know what? I don't care that everybody in the stadium knows we're running the football.
right.
That includes the Cleveland Brown defensive coordinator, Kevin
Yep.
Stefanski. I'm sure he was in his ear. The defense coordinator was like, man, do something about this. But they just kept
It's
doing
good.
it. And you have to give the credit to the offensive line as well. I
Yeah.
know a lot of people are showing Caleb Hunter love on social media. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool. It's a great story. But
Right.
man, we talk about that offensive line, the being able to say, you know what, we don't care that it's the same play or it's the same play flipped to the other side.
Right.
We gonna block this bad boy up, and that
Yeah.
is a statement to me because, like I said, when
Yeah.
everyone in the stadium knowing you're gonna run the football,
Right.
that says something that you can have success, T,
Yep.
and that's hard to take away
It is.
as you go along in the season.
It really, really is. And when you think about the much maligned O line, that's the same O line that kind of sort of came into the season 60% complete, then maybe 80% complete. Now is looking very, very complete. And it's why you can have a conversation. And for me, it's not so much, Jarvis, that I'm having a conversation about, ooh, they're in a tie for first place in the division. Slow your roll there
Yeah,
now.
we
Because the
ain't getting
Bucks,
there yet.
they're
Yeah,
still good. They're just banged up. Let's just be honest about that
right,
thing. But there's something to me that's not so much about being in first place. It's the play that got you there, right? It's
right.
it's all of the little nuances and even the play calling. Like you said, Arthur Smith and Dave Ragone being bold enough saying, no, we're going to go at it again. Okay, we might
Yeah,
give you a different back. We might put somebody else in, but we will run the same play, the same play, the same play. And I even think of it like this as well. And Jarvis, as a former player, you might be able to attest to it. As a rookie, Tyler Algier, who didn't even suit up in the first game, and became a critical cog in the wheel in game 4. How great is that for his level of confidence to say, I can see myself being a viable contributor, and so can they?
yeah. It's huge. It's huge because, like, you know, being drafted by a team, you coming into a season, you really. I mean, I know you got to have a certain mindset coming into the NFL, but when you think about being drafted by a team and then coming in your first game, you don't even dress. Like, like that has to touch you, right? That has to
True.
hit you. Even
Mhm.
D'Angelo Malone as well. Like, he
Yeah.
didn't dress in that
Yeah.
first game. And then when you see those guys do the necessary things to be on that, and then once they start dressing, then they gravitate towards getting those snaps, right? The first
Hmm.
game, Tyler Algier, he was
Right.
fine. He was fine. But
Serviceable.
when he was serviceable, and then when you come in and have the game like he did, we're averaging 8 yards a carry, then breaking off the big 40-yard run and just coming downhill and you just looking at the burst and you see the reasons why they drafted
Mhm.
him.
Yes.
Those are the type of things that you have to take a look at, and that's credit to Terry Fontenot being
Hmm.
able to find that guy like that, and also a guy like Caleb Hunter, who was an undrafted rookie, who we saw
Hmm.
spurts from last year in training camp.
Yeah.
We had those conversations like, all right, I really like what we're seeing out of Caleb Huntley
Hmm.
last year. So,
Yes.
and it's coming to fruition the following year. So the league is crazy.
It
It's
is.
funny how things play out, and I think that the Arthur Smith essentially is trusting the guys that he and Terry Fontenot have drafted or
Hmm.
scouted, and whoever's dressing, more than likely you better be ready because your number may be called.
Indeed, and he reiterated that in that post-game press conference, like you just better be ready. And to me, it was like I was thinking about you because I know that one of the songs that you love to sing is "We Ready," and I was like, that they really brought that song to fruition,
Yes, yes,
almost down that entire 53-man roster. And this is what I want to say before we wrap up: we are not we're not people who are like super fans that we can't, step out of our fandom or what have you to see that the glass is not quite full. But this is a day that you guys, as Falcons fans, as Braves country, as ATL, PTSD sports survivors, you deserve to have this day. Trust and believe. We know
yes.
7 for 19. Trust and believe. We know what London and KP did not get, and we're going to deep dive into that tomorrow. But
Tomorrow, yes.
today, go on and enjoy this awesome day in sports in Atlanta. And when you do, why don't you celebrate with Coffee AM? It's a perfect way to celebrate because you're kind of already hype a little bit, but you're probably coming off your high, right? Because you're probably up all night talking to your people about what happened in sports
Yes.
in Atlanta on Sunday. So get you some Coffee AM. It is the best small batch roaster in the country. And you can see I was up a little late too, so
Yes.
watching the games and reacting to them. But Coffee AM is right in our backyard. Great opportunity for you to really get to a coffee maker that really takes the opportunity to go all around the world and get you the best products. So if you want it fresh, go to them because they're going to ship it fresh to you or just as close to it. So if you want more, coffeeam.com, then go to coffeeam.com/ locked on. You can get 15% off that first order. And if you're like Jarvis, you'll get the coffee. If you're like me, you'll get the tea. Or if there's somebody that you want to send a gift set to because you just want to say happy birthday or thank you, do that as well. Again, it's coffeeam.com/ locked on for your 15% off your first order. And when we come back, it'll be For the Culture, where we talk about a little cultural shift in the making right around the corner.